Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another full body workout. And yeah, I don't know, man. I just didn't feel like doing deadlifts this week. I had a bunch of stuff planned, and today ended up getting really hectic. Yes, I'm actually home today. Um, Not going to get into all that, but I mean, people have seen enough online out there, they can kind of figure out some of the ridiculousness that could be going on today. Ex-girlfriend drama and all that. So I'm not going to get into the full details of it, but at least one other major YouTuber has had to actually get involved and get involved in the phone with some other stuff going on. It's a bunch of drama. It's a bunch of absolute ridiculousness. It is what it is. So I ended up not deadlifting today because, yeah, I mean, with all that sort of stuff going on, deadlifts are just out. But we can do the other big lifts. We can get the accessory work in. We can do all that stuff. So I went ahead and did that. Got my 3x5 pause squats, my 3x5 pause close bench, my 3x5 weighted pull-ups along with my Skullcrushers and curls. So, I mean, all in all, pretty productive day. And, we increased the weight on some of those movements just a little bit. Just a little bump up, which, we need to do. We need to be making progress. Sitting down at a nice solid 214. So the scale is still going down. Getting some mild improvements in strength, at least with my rep work, which is good. If you can be slowly losing weight and on some of your exercises get at least small increases for, even your 5-rep sets, things like that. That's a good thing. That's indicative of hopefully, in a best case scenario, some mild recomposition, and at the very least, solidly holding on to lean mass while cutting. So, that's overall what we're looking for. That is absolutely what we're looking for. And so I'm seeing that. And, again, happy with being able to get a nice deep pause on these low bar squats. And that's a point that does need to be brought up with a lot of that, is that people don't realize always I'm doing low bar squats here, so they worry about a little bit of the torso lean and the hip drive and everything. People need to remember I am doing low bar squats. And I know from the camera angle some might think it's high bar, but it really isn't. The weight's not up on top of my traps, it's behind them. So yeah, again, it's definitely low bar, definitely low bar. The close grip bench went good today. I'm trying to do a little more flat back. I'm not arching quite as much, and I am noticing, though, doing that, it does make my actual core hurt a little bit. It's interesting. I'm getting a little bit of abdominal soreness from training, even doing it. I think it's the bench doing it, because I'm noticing on the bench, I'm thinking at least it's my training causing my abs to be sore. I can't think of what else would be causing it. I'm not doing any extra core work or anything. So I think the benching almost seems to be affecting it. I don't know. Maybe it's the bar touching high on the abs, lower chest. But I do notice it while I'm doing them. So it's just a minor note with what I'm seeing here. So again, not that it's necessarily significant, it may or may not be, but just kind of talking about it and documenting it means what I will remember later. And this can come back up for the people who regularly watch the training clips of that I've had some abdominal soreness that I couldn't pinpoint necessarily what's causing it. And I was noticing it this weekend and complaining to someone else about it a little bit. And I am definitely feeling it on the bench press. So I need to make a mental note of that's at least bringing it out. It may not be the cause itself, but I'm noticing it during the bench press and not necessarily noticing it on other exercises. But yeah, we did manage to get all 3 sets of 5 today, all 3 sets of 5 with this weight for the pause close grip. So that's a good thing, just like I got all of my pause squats today, my 3x5. So also a good thing. And I actually ate I thought I ate relatively heavy this weekend. Again, at least towards the evenings. Morning time, not so much. It's fasting or lean protein and all those things. And then we got our Skullcrushers in. I bumped the weight a little bit on this. Went ahead and took it up to 115. And I feel like I've got more in the tank. I know that I'm stronger on these, so it's like my triceps are stronger than I'm giving myself credit for. So I may need to continue to increase these again. I think realistically I need to get back up to a full plate aside from my rep work here. And again, reminding people these are compound movement the way I'm doing them. Yes, I know it's not an excessive amount of shoulder movement, but there is some there, and that is what we're trying to get out of this. Get that deeper stretch on the long head, get a slightly longer overall range of motion, because that's what we need to build more muscle mass. You know, again, if you're trying to build muscle, the best thing you can do is increase range of motion on an exercise, at least an effective or safe range of motion. It doesn't mean universally, it doesn't mean find a way to increase range of motion that is not safe in some way, but something like that. The tricep has an additional movement involved. It does involve additional long head work if you get that shoulder movement happening, in addition to the fact that you are increasing the overall range of motion, which means, you know, more potential work with any given amount of weight. And as I said last Friday, I think, because doing my boots, I managed to get like 7 reps on my last set of pull-ups, dead hang pull-ups with the boots on. I went ahead and took the boots off and added 10 pounds. So we're going up on this a little bit for my sets of 5. And interestingly enough, I think I got 6 reps. I could be wrong, but I think that I got 6 reps on this, on the last one. And I'm pretty sure I did, now that I think back, now that I'm recording. So that's a good sign. So we bumped weight up slightly, and we're still able to complete more than a 3x5. We were able to do a 3x5 plus 1. So able to get a 6th rep is a good thing, because I mean my scale weight hasn't dropped that much since I started doing these. So I have gained, from what I can tell, particularly with the dead hang involved, I think I have gained strength on my pull-ups. So hopefully that's a very, very good sign with the next DEXA scan coming up, because again, we're seeing significant weight loss. And if we can get that a little bit of strength there, that's a good thing, because I've been calculating for my future predictions that I'm going to lose, you know, around 20% lean mass for every pound that I lose. And so that's where I've come up with the numbers that I've calculated of body weight goals with body fat percentage goals. So realistically, if I can lose less muscle or less lean mass with every pound lost, those numbers could be skewed a little bit for the better. That would be a positive thing. So again, we get that extra rep. Now granted, it was a little bit of rest pause to get it, but an extra rep is an extra rep, and we will take performance where we can get it, particularly on big movements, that do address weak points. And for me, I think arms are still somewhat of a weak point, and it needs to be addressed. So an improvement there is good. Now, cheat curls, I went ahead and did a mild weight increase, and I noticed I couldn't get many reps. It was a lot more difficult to get my target reps here, but it's still a weight increase. And, you know, we did get a weight increase on the pull-ups. Let's watch me with this. This is a little bit of a struggle. And you can definitely tell they're cheat curls now. I mean, they're not super cheating, but they're certainly not super strict either. So we're definitely having to use just a little bit of body English on that. Again, a lot of people use a hell of a lot more, but I'm certainly not going to call this a strict curl either. It's definitely a cheat curl at this point. And a lot of that benefit is that, you know, we do make it more of a compound on the way up, and then obviously the eccentric is going to be a little heavier as a result. And now granted, I always tell people eccentrics are not necessarily the key to muscle growth. They're just one tool in the toolbox, and I think oftentimes they're overrated. They are overrated. But when your goal is definitely a little more hypertrophic in nature, and you don't want to do a lot of volume, a little bit of eccentric loading isn't a bad thing, because, you know, again, we always say concentric only training can absolutely produce maximum muscle growth. There is no doubt about that, but it requires quite a bit more volume. And if you're wanting to do limited volume, and in this case I'm only doing like 1 set or so of these smaller exercises just for some additional work, you know, a little bit of eccentric loading, which the cheat curl gives you, may have some perks for just that single set if you're going to limit that. But these are not my primary muscle builders, you know. They're not my primary muscle builders. My big compounds are. These compound cheat curls, and then the same thing with the compound laying tricep extension. They are there just to add a little more fatigue, a little more stimulus, maybe hit those weakest muscle groups on me a bit harder than they're being hit. Maybe work them in a slightly different way with a little more fatigue being applied to them than what I'm getting on my big movements, to just balance me back out a little bit better and work on those things. So that's ultimately what they're there for. That's why I'm doing them. And so again, something like looking at a little bit more of an eccentric loading might not be a bad thing. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.